A poison mushroom was at the center of a murder trial that captured Australia's attention. Hi there, everyone. It's Jeff, and this is Plain English, episode number 798. Here at Plain English, we help you upgrade your English skills with stories about current events and trending topics. We don't do a lot of true crime episodes here, but this one fascinated and horrified viewers in Australia and around the world. A woman was convicted of killing her husband's relatives by serving them a poisonous mushroom for lunch. Just wait until you hear the story. Every episode comes with a full transcript, fast and slow audio, translations of key words, exercises, and more. It's all at plainenglish.com/798. Before we start today's story, I'd just like to remind you that the podcast is just one part of how we can help you upgrade your English skills. At plainenglish.com, you can make faster progress with active learning strategies. You can take quizzes, do activities, listen to the fast version of the audio, watch video workshops, practice what you learn, and even join a live call with JR and me. It's all about helping you build your skills to become a better, more confident English speaker. Sound good? Go to plainenglish.com to start your free 14-day trial today. Now, let's jump into today's story. There's an episode of the British TV series Midsummer Murders in which someone eats a poisonous mushroom, which has been mixed in with other safe mushrooms in his kitchen. By the time he begins vomiting, it's already too late. The toxin is attacking his vital organs, and he will soon be dead. Murder in real life is rarely like fiction, but when it is, people can't stop watching. Such is the case with the so-called Leongatha mushroom murders. Leongatha is a town in Victoria, Australia, with fewer than 6,000 residents. It's not the sort of place you'd expect a grisly crime to occur. Nevertheless, a triple murder took place there that was so sensational that filmmakers began planning TV adaptations before the trial had even concluded. Here's the story. It was late July 2023. Erin Patterson, a local resident, invited her estranged husband, Simon, and 4 members of his family to lunch. Estranged means they didn't talk anymore. Erin was separated from her husband Simon, but they weren't yet legally divorced. Still, Erin invited Simon, his parents Don and Gail Patterson, and Simon's aunt and uncle, Heather and Ian Wilkinson. On the day before the lunch, Simon, the husband, told Erin, the wife, that he wouldn't go. He felt uncomfortable. He and Erin hadn't lived together for years, and they'd been having more problems recently. But Simon's relatives, his parents, his aunt, and his uncle, for some reason, they all decided to go, even though they weren't entirely sure why Erin invited them. The menu that day was beef Wellington. Beef Wellington is a fancy dish. It's a cut of beef covered in finely chopped mushrooms and wrapped in a pastry. When the food was served, Heather and Ian noticed that Erin's plate looked different from everyone else's. Her dish was small and orange, while the others were served a plate that looked gray. At the time, they didn't think anything of it. and the food was delicious. Erin then told her lunch guests that she had been diagnosed with life-threatening ovarian cancer. This was the reason she had invited everyone to lunch. She wanted to tell them the news in person. At their respective homes that evening, each of the 4 guests started to feel unwell. The next day, they all had to go to the hospital, where doctors made a horrifying discovery. They had been exposed to Amanita phalloides, otherwise known as the death cap mushroom. Death caps grow in the wild. They attach to the roots of trees, and they contain a poison called amatoxin. That attacks your organs and causes them to shut down. Most poisonous mushrooms just give humans mild symptoms like headaches, but eating just half a death cap mushroom is usually enough to kill you. Death caps are dangerous because they look like popular edible mushrooms. That's a big reason why they're responsible for 90% of the world's deadly mushroom poisonings. And cooking the death caps does nothing to reduce their harmful effects. The only way to stay safe is not to eat them in the first place. At the hospital, Simon's aunt and uncle were treated by a doctor called Chris Webster. He didn't think this case of death cap poisoning was an accident. In fact, he became convinced it was murder, and that the perpetrator was none other than the host of the previous day's lunch, Erin Patterson. Erin arrived at the hospital after Heather and Ian, complaining of an upset stomach. Webster, the doctor, started quizzing her about the previous day's lunch. Where did she get the mushrooms? She told him she bought them at Woolworths, an Australian supermarket chain. Webster later said that's when it all clicked. First, there's no way Woolworths would be selling death cap mushrooms by mistake. And second, Erin didn't seem worried about Heather and Ian, even though she'd just learned they'd ingested a deadly fungus. He was sure Erin Patterson was a killer. After that, Erin's behavior only got stranger. She discharged herself voluntarily from the hospital. She had just been told that she may have been exposed to the world's deadliest mushroom, but she still walked right out of the hospital, unconcerned. That's when Webster, the doctor, called the police. Don and Gail Patterson, Simon's parents, died a few days later. Then Heather, the aunt, died. Her husband Ian was placed in a coma, where he remained for almost 2 months. He was the only one who survived. Erin never even got sick. Neither did her 2 children, who both ate her leftover beef Wellington. Tests showed no traces of death cap toxins in their bodies. Erin later claimed she ate too much cake after lunch, so she went to the bathroom to throw up. She suggested this is why she didn't get sick like the others did. But police weren't convinced, and slowly more evidence piled up against Erin. Erin said she had never gone foraging for mushrooms, but her search history showed she looked up death cap sightings in the area. People who hunt for mushrooms often dry them with a food dehydrator. Erin said she'd never owned a dehydrator, but police found one at a local landfill with her fingerprints and traces of Amanita phalloides. And remember how she told her in-laws that she had cancer? That was just a lie. Police arrested Erin a little over 3 months after the lunch. It was crystal clear that the death cap mushrooms were in the beef Wellingtons. What was missing was a motive. Why would Erin Patterson want to kill her husband's relatives? Why target his aunt and uncle? Erin pleaded not guilty, saying the whole thing was just a tragic accident. Her trial started in May 2025 and lasted 11 weeks. Near the end, Erin took the stand to share her version of events, and the prosecutor grilled her on everything. The dehydrator, the fake cancer diagnosis, leaving the hospital early, all of it. She refused to answer most of the questions, replying with just one word: incorrect. The defense argued that no motive was ever presented, but when the jury came back, they brought a clear message: guilty on all counts. A poison mushroom. That is so scary. Where I grew up, mushrooms grew in the woods, and we were told in no uncertain terms, do not eat any wild mushroom for any reason. I just looked up death cap mushrooms on Wikipedia. They look exactly like mushrooms you find in the grocery store or chopped up in a beef Wellington for that matter. So be careful out there, and be careful what lunch invitations you accept. Beef Wellington is also kind of a strange choice to serve for lunch. It's a pretty elaborate dish, especially if you make it from scratch. I don't know, maybe they do things differently in Australia. Anyway, that's all for us here at Plain English. This was episode number 798, so you can find the full episode and all the practice exercises at plainenglish.com/798. We'll be back on Thursday with a new episode. See you then. Listen up if you speak Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, German, French, Italian, Japanese, Polish, or Turkish. One of the most frustrating things about listening and reading in a second language is being confused by unfamiliar words or phrases. When you listen to Plain English, or when you read the transcript, you probably encounter some words you don't know. When that happens, you have a few options. You can stop the audio, go look up the definition, then return to the episode, find your place, and press play again, but that's exhausting. Or you can just skip it and be confused. That's no fun either. But what if you could see the translation of the word into your language instantly without having to stop the audio, without having to look anything up? Well, you can at plainenglish.com. For each episode, we translate about 100 words and phrases from English to 9 languages: Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, German, French, Italian, Japanese, Polish, and Turkish. And we highlight those words in blue. All you have to do is hover your mouse over the highlighted word, and you'll see the translation instantly. It works great on mobile too. It really makes listening a lot more satisfying, and it's a great way to expand your vocabulary in English. The best way to see these translations is to sign up for a free 14-day trial at plainenglish.com. During your trial, you can read as many transcripts as you like, all with the translations into your language. So sign up for your free trial today at plainenglish.com.